Hey everybody, welcome back to the deep dive. You know how we do things around here? We love to really get into the weeds on this stuff, and you guys have given us a really interesting one to unpack this time.
Yeah, definitely interesting and a lot to unpack too.
We're talking about the future of Marine Corps logistics. It sounds kind of dry maybe at first, but
Oh, no, it's way more dynamic than you might think.
yeah, that's what I'm hoping we can uncover here. We've got a couple documents to dig into.
Yeah.
First, there's this big old performance work statement for a support contract, like a really big one. And
This
then
is like their shopping list, right?
yeah,
Laying out exactly what they need.
exactly. It's super detailed, and then we've also got something called a sources sought notice, which basically means they're putting out feelers to see who's out there, who might be able to take on this work when the current contract runs out.
So it's like a sneak peek into what they're prioritizing for the future.
Right? It's all about figuring out what the Marine Corps vision is for its logistics in the years to come. Like, what are the big changes they're making? How are they adapting to this crazy world? And what kind of tech are they going to be using? I mean,
Yeah, and it's not just about tech either. It's about the whole approach to logistics.
where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, the first thing to remember is that this isn't just about, keeping the tanks full of gas. This is about the strategy behind it all, the big picture, how they're adapting to a world that's changing crazy fast.
So less about wrenches and more about like algorithms and stuff.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Think about the challenges they're facing. The threats are constantly evolving. The equipment's aging budgets are tight. So they need to be super flexible and responsive just to keep up, let alone stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of do-overs when you're talking about national security.
Hmm.
So what is their vision? What are they aiming for with all of this?
They lay out some key principles that are going to shape their entire approach. First off, they're really moving away from that siloed thinking and emphasizing cooperation across the board.
So like no more lone wolves, everyone working together.
Exactly. It's about planning and making decisions together across different units, different branches of the military, even with allies.
Wow, so much more integrated than in the past.
Absolutely. And that goes hand in hand with another major focus: seamless information sharing. They want real-time data flowing across the entire force, so everybody has the most up-to-date picture possible.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
You can't be agile and responsive if you're working off of old intel.
yeah.
And, I think I saw something in here about the Navy being more involved too.
Oh, yeah, big
Yeah.
time. There's a huge push for closer integration between the Navy and the Marine Corps on the logistics side.
So like sharing resources and coordinating more closely.
Exactly. It's about leveraging each other's strengths and making sure they can operate seamlessly together, especially in those really critical early stages of a deployment.
Okay, so we've got this shift toward more cooperation, more information sharing, tighter integration with the Navy. What else?
Another huge priority is being able to support what they call dispersed forces. Basically, that means smaller, more agile units operating in all sorts of environments, from ships to these far-flung forward bases.
So not the giant base camps we're used to seeing.
Right. It's about being lean mobile and able to sustain operations even when you're spread really thin. And to make all of this work, they need really strong and consistent policy guidance. Everybody needs to be on the same page, following the same playbook.
Yeah, that's key. Even with the best tech and the best people, if you've got folks working at cross purposes, it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
So that's the big picture. But how does all of this actually translate into, boots on the ground?
That's where the Marine Air Ground Task Force, or MAGTF, comes into play. It's their basic building block for combat operations.
I've heard that term before, but I'm honestly a little fuzzy on the details. Give us a quick breakdown.
Sure. So the MAGTF is made up of four main elements. You've got command ground combat, aviation combat, and critically for our discussion, the logistics combat element, or LCE.
Ah, so the LCE is like the support crew for the whole operation, making sure everybody has what they need when they need it.
It's even more than that. The LCE is really woven into the fabric of the MAGTF. It's not just an afterthought. They're involved in the planning, the decision-making, even combat operations.
Wow. So they're right there in the thick of it.
Yeah, and that's why they need to adapt just as much as the combat units to all these new challenges we're talking about.
And that, I'm guessing, is where this massive support contract comes in.
Exactly. It outlines all the different areas where the Marine Corps needs help to make this vision a reality. And trust me, it's a very long list.
Yeah, I saw that 16 task areas. We definitely don't have time to go through all of them, but maybe you could highlight a few that really show us the scope of this whole thing.
Okay, so let's start with something called strategic communications. And don't think of it as just like sending emails or something. This is about shaping the narrative, managing perceptions, making sure everybody's on message.
That sounds more like PR than logistics.
It's all connected, especially in today's world with social media and the 24/7 news cycle. Then you've got IT portfolio management, which is a huge undertaking for any large organization, but especially one as complex as the Marine Corps.
So we're talking software, hardware, cybersecurity, data management, the whole 9 yards.
It's mind-boggling. And then there's AI capability development.
Yeah.
This shows how serious they are about using really cutting-edge technology to make their logistics more efficient and effective.
Yeah, AI seems to be the hot topic everywhere these days. But how much of an impact do you think it's actually going to have on how they do things?
I think it has the potential to be absolutely transformative. Think about being able to predict maintenance needs before something breaks down or optimize supply routes in real time based on changing conditions. That's the kind of advantage AI could give them.
That's pretty amazing. It's like having a crystal ball, but powered by data instead of magic. And
Yeah.
it's not just AI, right? There's 3D printing, unmanned systems, a whole bunch of other futuristic stuff. It's like they're trying to bring science fiction to life.
It is pretty remarkable, and what's fascinating here is that they're tackling a lot of the same challenges that any large organization faces. Managing technology, communicating, effectively adapting to rapid change. It's almost like a microcosm of the world today.
But with way higher stakes. So before we go full-on tech geek here and dissect all the cool gadgets, let's take a step back and check in with you, dear listener. What stood out to you so far? What's got you thinking, wow, I didn't realize the Marine Corps was doing that?
Okay, so we've covered some pretty high-level stuff about how the Marine Corps is thinking about logistics, their need for speed and flexibility, the emphasis on teamwork and tech, and, of course, all the data that comes with that. But
Oh, yeah, the beta.
I kind of want to get into some of the specifics now.
Yeah.
What are some of these technological advancements they're talking about that really caught our eye? Yeah, let's get into the weeds a little bit. It's not just about the wow factor of the tech itself. It's about how these advancements are going to fundamentally change the way the Marine Corps operates and supports its forces.
Okay, I'm ready. Where do we even begin?
Let's talk about 3D printing, or additive manufacturing, as they call it. It's not just a gimmick anymore. It's seriously becoming a game changer for logistics.
Yeah, I can see how that would be useful, like being able to create stuff on demand.
Yeah.
But how much of an impact are we really talking here?
Well, imagine being able to create spare parts, tools, even specialized medical devices right there on the battlefield, instead of relying on those traditional supply chains.
Wow, so no more waiting for parts to be shipped in, especially in those really remote or dangerous areas? That's incredible.
It drastically reduces their dependence on these vulnerable supply lines and allows them to be so much more self-sufficient.
Okay, 3D printing is a big deal. What else are they exploring?
Unmanned systems are another area where they're really pushing the envelope. We're talking aerial drones, ground vehicles, even underwater robots, all designed to take on some of those logistics and support roles.
So instead of sending Marines into harm's way to transport supplies or conduct reconnaissance in dangerous areas, they can send in the robots.
Exactly, and that significantly reduces the risk to human personnel while increasing efficiency. They can carry supplies, gather intelligence, even help evacuate casualties.
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. But all this technology, especially the unmanned systems, feeding back information that's got to generate a ton of data, how do they even manage all of that?
That's where data analytics comes in. The Marine Corps is investing a lot in sophisticated tools and algorithms that can sift through all that data, identify patterns, and ultimately help commanders make better decisions faster.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about making sense of it and actually using it to their advantage.
Right. It's about turning data into actionable insights. They can use it to optimize supply routes, predict when equipment needs maintenance, even anticipate enemy movements.
Wow, so it's like having a crystal ball, but powered by data instead of magic.
You could say that. And of course, we have to talk about artificial intelligence. It seems like that's the buzzword for everything these days.
Yeah, you can't escape it.
It's not just hype when it comes to military logistics, though. AI has the potential to revolutionize so much of what they do. Think about intelligence systems that can automate routine tasks, optimize the allocation of resources, even assist with complex planning and decision-making.
It frees up human logisticians to focus on the things that require actual human judgment.
Exactly. AI can handle the repetitive stuff or the things that are really data heavy, allowing those human experts to concentrate on the things that require judgment, creativity, experience.
It's like those self-driving cars, right?
Right.
The technology is pretty amazing, but you still probably want a human being behind the wheel just in case.
Precisely. And that brings us back to that idea of logistics innovation. It's not just about adopting the new tech. It's about creating a culture where Marines at all levels are encouraged to be creative, think critically, and challenge the status quo.
Because in the real world, things rarely go according to plan, especially not in a combat zone.
Yeah,
You need people who can improvise and adapt and come up with solutions on the fly.
absolutely. Technology can give you a huge advantage, but it's that human element, the ingenuity, the resilience, the willingness to push boundaries that makes the difference between success and failure.
Okay, so we've gone from the high-level vision down to the nitty-gritty of the tech, 3D printing, unmanned systems, AI data analytics. It's clear they're not afraid of the future. What's your big takeaway from all of this?
But what strikes me is that they're not just reacting to change, they're actively trying to shape the future of military logistics,
Mhm.
asking tough questions, exploring bold ideas, taking calculated risks.
And speaking of risks, this whole contract recompete adds another layer of complexity, right?
Hmm.
Before we jump into that, though, let's turn it back over to you, dear listener. What's got you saying, hmm,
I never thought of it that way during our little deep dive so far. Okay, so we've talked about the Marine Corps big plans for their logistics, all the cool tech and the challenges they're facing. But it all comes down to like who's actually going to help them make this happen.
right. That's where this sources sought notice comes into play.
Hmm.
It's basically their way of seeing who's out there. Which companies have the skills and the ideas to really partner with them on this.
It's almost like a dating profile for government contractors.
Yeah, kind of like that. They're
Uh,
putting it out there, what they're looking for, and seeing who responds. Who rises to the challenge.
so it's more than just like checking boxes on a list of requirements. They want someone who gets them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding a company that really understands their mission, their challenges, their long-term goals. A true partner, a partner in crime. Okay. So what are they looking for in this ideal partner? What kind of qualities?
Well, obviously, experience is huge. They need a company that's got a proven track record, managing big projects, putting together top-notch teams, delivering results in tough environments. That's the baseline.
Makes sense.
Uh,
But it sounds like they're looking for something a little bit more than that, like something a bit more intangible.
you're right. They specifically talk about needing scalability, agility, responsiveness.
Right.
This partner needs to be able to ramp up or down, quickly adapt to changing circumstances, and, offer innovative solutions on the fly.
Plus, it's got to be like a logistical ninja,
Mm.
moving fast, thinking on their feet, handling whatever comes at them.
That's a good way to put it. It's definitely a high bar. And here's something I found really interesting. The government's actually encouraging small businesses to throw their hat in the ring.
Really? So it's not just the big defense giants that have a shot.
Nope, they're explicitly looking for fresh perspectives out of the box, thinking a willingness to challenge the status quo.
I like that. It shows that they're really serious about innovation and bringing new ideas into the fold.
Absolutely. It says a lot about how much they value finding the best possible partner, no matter their size or, their reputation.
So we've covered a lot in this deep dive, the changing nature of warfare, the ins and outs of military logistics, all the crazy tech that's shaping the future. What's the big takeaway here?
Well, for me, it's about how the Marine Corps is not just adapting to change. They're actively shaping the future, asking tough questions, exploring bold ideas, taking risks. That's really inspiring.
And speaking of taking risks, let's turn it back over to you, dear listener.
Yeah.
What are you taking away from all of this? How can you apply these insights to your own life, your own work, even if you're not in the military or the logistics field?
Yeah, think about it. The challenges they're facing, adapting to change, leveraging technology, building strong partnerships, those are challenges that resonate across all sorts of industries and organizations.
Yeah, like we said earlier, they're almost a microcosm of the world today. So even if you're not planning to bid on a government contract anytime soon, you can still learn from their approach.
Absolutely. Ask yourself, how can I be more adaptable in my own work? Am I embracing new technologies and ideas, or am I stuck in the old ways of doing things? How can I build stronger relationships with my colleagues and my partners?
Those are some great questions to ponder. And here's one more, just to get those creative juices flowing. If you were in charge of a company bidding on this support contract, what would be your unique selling point? What would make you stand out from the crowd and convince the Marine Corps that you're the perfect partner for this mission?
It's definitely a challenge worth thinking about, because in a world that's changing as fast as ours, the ability to adapt, innovate, and collaborate isn't just a nice to have, it's a matter of survival.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that final thought. We've taken the deep dive together. Now it's your turn to explore the depths. Thanks for joining us.